We are up to the top. Dustin Craven and Danny Davis. As you said before, two opposing styles. I mean, Dustin Craven, I watched his union part just to get re-familiar with him again last night. That thing could have been filmed last year. Just balls to the wall, unafraid to full send. Let's hear from Dustin on his perspective in getting this first-time invite to be here at Natural Selection.
I like him because it's kind of like when you go to a contest and if it's just 16 guys, you're just like, I just got to beat 16 guys. Whereas the head-to-head, it's like, oh, if I want to move on to vault-face, it's like, I just got to give it to Danny Davis. I've known Danny since I was like 15 years old, so it's pretty cool just to like have someone that's like I respect so much. He's done so much in the sport of snowboarding, and yeah, I look up to him. So it's like if there's someone to get beat by, I'm happy it's him, and if I beat him, it's an awesome feeling for me. I saw him at the end, and we both kind of just conferred that going first and second is probably the best bet.
You gotta love the rookie being unafraid to be like, throw me in the first slot. Let's go. All of Revelstoke, British Columbia, stand up. Dustin Craven is in the box.
And the last thing he said before dropping to Liam Griffin up top was, it's just snowboarding. That's how he approaches it.
This is a great matchup with Danny. Dustin just alluded to it. He took a fall right there. Not the way he wanted to start it or anybody wanted to start the event here today, but it points to the conditions.
Yeah, and maybe that whole idea of slowing things down, maybe it got to Dustin a little bit. You know, he caught the knuckle on that backside 180. There is a huge cab 5 and a beautiful frontside turn from Dustin Craven.
Well, it also points to, do the riders who were here last year have a big advantage?
Backside 3 tree tap going up and over that massive evergreen tree as Dustin makes his way down into the bottom portion of this course.
When you talk about feeling for snow, which you have to do on your snowboard with different types of snow, we know it's a little bit more shallow. What's he feeling for as he's dancing through this as the first rider?
You're feeling for a crust. Anything that could make you ragdoll or take you off your feet. You're really just kind of feeling out the entire course, how forgiving the snow is, how deep it is, and if there's any crust laying underneath.
Well, I think all the other riders were paying attention to that right there, because you got to keep in mind, nobody has dropped in except for Dustin now, so nobody really has any data on what the conditions are like.
And that was why so many riders were right off the bat picking in that 5, 6, 7, 8 pace scene. I just want to watch. Danny Davis, not one of them. One of the most decorated and recognizable faces in snowboarding, represents all aspects of the culture. His first time here. What's it mean to Danny to be at Natural Selection?
You know, I'd say the major difference between this and, you know, something like X Games or Dew Tour or something like that, it's a little fam, you know, like it's pretty tight, and these are a lot of people you see out in the mountains filming or on different trips. You never see them in the contest scene, so that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, other than the course we're riding and all of that, but yeah, it's a fam. It's much different. There's no coaches, and yeah, it's different.
You take away Danny's Olympic appearances, his 2 times winning X Games gold, he just whittles down into what he just described. He's a snowboarder.
He's a snowboarder.
He just absolutely embodies snowboarding.
Absolutely. And, you know, for as you know, kind and smiley and happy as Danny is, make no mistake about it, he is a competitor.
I agree. He is a competitor, but he takes one of the 2 competitive approaches, which is either intensity or total casual, relaxed in the flow state.
Which will he apply?
And I feel like now we're going to find out if Dustin Craven left the door open for Danny Davis. Switch backside 1, same as Dustin, catching the knuckle there. So the speed may be not quite as fast as some of these riders had predicted from the course inspection yesterday.
Yeah, it's just another one of those variables.
Ooh. This is the first year that we have the riders fully mic'd up. So we're hearing those real-time reactions. We could speculate all we want, but you'll be able to hear in real time where the riders' heads are at.
Oof. Well, totally. And that crust layer down below, it's not just about trying to advance to the next run. It's also, there is some consequence. You know, you can get injured, and riders are keeping that in the back of their mind as well with these conditions.
And you can see a little bit of chatter, maybe some tracks underneath with that fresh snow on top. And, you know, I think given the snow conditions, when Danny and Dustin chose to drop first and second, I think that was a smart play.
Remember, in that overall impression judging system, flow. And one thing we did see from Danny that is just a trademark to him is that ability to flow through despite the conditions.
That wasn't very good.
Method was worth it, though.
Absolutely, and there's the Quicksilver Surf the Mountain Award too, so that's a factor.
Huh?
It's dense.
So dense.
You hear that? So dense.
So dense. You can see Danny did have a little bit of trouble with those landings. Looking back on Dustin Craven's run, that cab 5 was immaculate. And check this out, backside 3 tree tap. That is a highly consequential trick. And this trick right here, that frontside 7, this was a la Gigi Ruff last year. First rider to drop, throwing out a frontside 720 on that massive jump down bottom. Unfortunately, not quite able to ride out clean.
But again, the great part about the judging system is did you just jump to fall, or were you trying to do something to enhance your run and you happened to fall?
And here we are. We have Danny right there, almost getting it, but leaning a little bit too far forward on that gap right there. You got to think the other thing is these two riders, neither one of them had been down the course before, unlike the veterans from last year. So that's going to change things up for next round.
Absolutely, yeah. This was both Danny and Dustin's first time riding the Jackson course. Dustin, of course, did compete Baldface Valhalla last year, but that's completely different terrain.
That shifty from Danny was a thing of beauty.
All right, dog.
And as
On
expected,
to the next.
Don't make me unpack my bags, Danny.
Yeah, I'm really interested as Dustin starts his second run to see what line he takes. Will it be similar? And if so, will the tricks be different? Backside 180, caught perfect landing on that back one. And right there, it's the little things, the little cab 3s, and the way that you approach the next feature. It's not just about the trick you do. So Dustin coming in switch and sticking with that cab 5 and knuckling the landing of that hip, just catching the top of it. But he's going to keep it going.
With some of these features, I mean, the riders are watching everybody go, not just to see what tricks they're throwing, but to see where the fresh part of the landing is.
Backside 360. Unfortunately, Dusty sat it down there.
He's got to be sitting there thinking, okay, well, I got a really good score on the first round. Danny's got his work cut out for him. This is not going as well as it had started or he had hoped.
Huge frontside 720 from Dustin Craven, capping off his second run. That was massive.
not how you start, but how you finish.
That's a good point right there. And knowing if the first run is any indication, you know, one or two falls, depending upon how big your big moves were, might not impact you that much. Well, it's pretty cut and dry what Danny's got to do. I mean, the surefire way for Danny to win is to land it.
Yeah.
Get a full pull.
Yep.
Dustin was just speaking the international language of my body hurts.
Seriously,
You can see that. Door slightly open for Danny Davis. And again, for all of the flowy namaste that you see from him out in the world, just loving being out here, it is that the depth of that competitive gear and how much he loves to get after it with the intention of winning.
And right now, if Danny does win this round, it officially goes to the tiebreak round.
And we want as much snowboarding as we can get.
Yes, we do. Not saying I'm rooting for anyone.
Yeah, we're rooting for snowboarding here. More snowboarding for everyone. So, Danny, in the interest of snowboarding, let's get the win here.
I'm interested to see if Danny's going to maybe take a more conservative approach to put a run down to put a better score on the board, or if he's going to stick to what he did in run 1.
Well, you got to think, had this heat happened later in the first run, I don't know if Dustin would have gotten to 75.
Switch backside 180. Danny puts that down super clean.
Let's see if he's taking the exact same line as Dustin, so he knows if he can get past here, he's setting himself up well.
Beautiful front side 360 from Danny Davis.
Into a beautiful hammer frontside carve.
And there is Danny's signature trick. That's what comes to mind, the method, when you hear the name Danny Davis. That was gigantic. Huge straight air, caught perfect transition in the landing. And look at Danny's going a little rider's right. Maybe the snow's a little bit better on that aspect over there.
Well, that's the competitor in Danny. He knows he had a full pole, so let's get out. Get out. You hear it in the pipe. Stop.
As well as like, let me just show the judges I'm about to turn my snowboard, because they're going to be overall impressed.
Boxing match.
I kissed that hip.
Of the hip?
Yeah, like the top of it. Like
You okay?
Yeah.
You heard Danny say that was a full-on boxing match.
And that's a pretty good analogy, because this is the equivalent of a heavyweight title fight.
That was great seeing the alternative on the ground angle of that first hit as opposed to the drone. Shows you the size.
And you're getting a look right now of how those landings are getting pretty chewed up. Every time a rider falls in those landings, it becomes a little less hittable. Here's that front side 720 from Dustin Craven. And he caught some good snow, little wheelie bar out of it, but he stomped that front 7. That's a thing of beauty right there, Dustin Craven. Well done. Pay the man.
Well, and here we go with Danny, taking a very similar line, mixing it up after he stomps this gap hip.
And you see Danny took it a little rider's left to catch good snow in that landing and not land on the top of it like what happened to Dustin Craven.
Again, in the event that Danny gets the win here, we're going to go to a rubber match. Will that 720 from Craven be enough?
I got to say, I think we're going to go to a third run.
I think that was one of my favorite runs I've seen today from Danny D.
Well, certainly the cleanest.
Yeah.
Definitely did a nice back 70. It's definitely questionable. Switchback one was good off the bat too.
Yeah, Danny.
Good job, bud. Way to go.
No tiebreaker.
Atta boy.
So I'm just going to go out on an edge here and say that perhaps the intentional conservatism, the judges were like, no, that's not enough for us.